So hi everybody, I just thought I'd hop on Sunday. It's Easter Sunday today, and I thought I'd just give everybody as to what I foresee as one of the main things that has been overlooked by many, in fact most people on YouTube in terms of how to gain freedom for humanity. And it comes through a great deal of deception that has been going on over the last 10,000 years by this crowd called the Khazarian Mafia, or the controlling elite, whatever you want to call them. And if you really want to have a look into a very good expose and understanding of what they're about, I suggest you have a look at Chuck Schwindel's videos on the Khazarian Mafia, the God Eaters, part 1, and then there's also a part 2 as well. They're long, but they go into a great amount of detail as to what the problem is. Now, I wanted to reference here our dear friend, Mr. Klaus Schwab at the WEF, World Economic Forum, that is touting this idea that everybody is going to have nothing and be happy with having nothing sometime in the future. And this is what a lot of people are actually just laughing at. They're kind of laughing it off and going, oh, how can this happen? It will never happen to us. What is he smoking and all the rest of it? But I really want to tell you that that has already happened. That has already happened. Yes, that's what I said. The fact that you own nothing has already happened since birth. And I want to explain what that is. Very succinctly, what has happened that this was a swindle which took place at your birth, where your mother signed the birth certificate that you were born on that particular day in that particular city. And what happened thereafter was that the bank took possession of these documents from the hospitals and have used that as a bond on which to trade you as a chattel and commodity on the open market since the day you were born. And into this as well is also the story that for many people and for most people, when the baby was born, the bottoms of your feet were wetted with water, and the footprints of your feet were then placed onto the back of the birth certificate or an adjoining piece of paper, which was to represent for the Roman Catholic Church the fact that your soul had now been taken over and was now in possession of the Roman Catholic Church. And the reason for this is that on the birth certificate, your mother is required by law to firstly fill the birth certificate in capital letters. And this is the thing, she's to use her maiden name. And the way this gets interpreted by this dog English or Black's law interpretation of the legal system worldwide is that your mother was then, because she used her maiden name, was unwed at the time that you were born. Even if she was married to your father, makes no difference. Legally, they have now interpreted this, that your mother was not wed at that point in time, and therefore you needed a foster father parent. And that foster father turns out to be the Vatican. So the Vatican has now taken possession of not only your physical body, but your spiritual soul, your spiritual God-given soul as well. Then the next thing that happens is that that birth certificate gets taken and a number gets assigned to it. And then what happened in the days when I was born, some 65 years ago, it might be quicker today with technology and everything, with emails and whatnot. It might just be a few days or a week. But in the old days, this used to take nearly a month, where the number that gets assigned to the day that you are born with the birth certificate, that birth certificate is spelled B-E-R-T-H, and has your father's surname attached to it. and that becomes the debtor's instrument, which is used by the banking industry to trade you as chattel. What happens then is that 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, a new birth certificate gets issued. So where I was born at the end of August, I now get issued with a new birth certificate, which is sometime in September, only with my Christian names, and this can be traced now only by the number that was on the original date of birth certificate. This new and second hidden away birth certificate is the one that is being used, or is the one that you and I have to now go and find in order to free ourselves from the system. And this is because at birth, every single child on the planet, doesn't matter from what color, race, religion, economic group, caste that you came from originally, every single birth certificate is assigned a value of $2 million. And because you don't work for the first 18 years at least, or even 21 years, it's only claimable when you're 21. So it is kept sort of under investment portfolios for the first 21 years. By the time you get to that age of 21, your birth certificate is worth something like $100 million. And if you're a person that has been into business many times, or if you've done many courses in terms of improving your education, every single time you signed your signature on any document, bank documents, signing papers to renew your passport or your ID document or your driver's license or apply for a fishing permit or whatever it might have been, every single time you sign your name, that is an instrument which gets used by the banks to further be able to trade on your name. It enhances your value, in other words. So what happens is that there are people, on average, have a birth certificate that is worth $200 to $500 million. That's your average person on the planet. And the CEOs of big corporations can have birth certificates that are worth $3.5, $4, $5 billion. And when you claim that second birth certificate, which is completely unknown to most people, you then have the ability and the authority to go and claim the interest from the investment money that is held against your birth certificate. And not only that, this then withdraws that amount of money from the system, this Ponzi scheme system in which they are printing endless money through the banks, the central banks, because the central bank prints money based on everybody in your country or everybody in your society's value. This is where the infrastructure gets paid out of, your birth certificate investment money. Infrastructure, roads, hospitals, parks, trees that get planted in the neighborhood, nothing gets paid out of your income tax money. Your income tax money goes to pay private families that run the income tax departments in every single country as private corporations. This is how we've been swindled. And when you claim that second birth certificate, where I've got to find mine, I have no idea. I still have to go through this process. This is the emancipation process. You have to apply in your country. Doesn't matter whether it's America or England or Germany or Australia or South Africa or any other country in the world. You have to type into your search browser, not Google. Google's the enemy we're working against. You have to type into your search engine how to deregister from the voting system in such and such a country, and then find out the details of how to go about that. Because as long as you are a voter registered in the voting system, you are then held accountable and as a subject and a slave to the Temple Crown of London, which means then that not a single item of land that you own, whether it's a huge farm or a conservatory or a small holding or a plot or an earth or an apartment or a house or an office block or a business park, doesn't matter what you own, every single piece and parcel of land on the planet and the improvements thereon, buildings and whatever else has been put up, is the original title is owned by the Temple Crown of London, simply because you have become a member of some voting system which then tracks and traces you. Not only that, it goes even much deeper and much more bizarre than this. What happens also at the same point in time is that this birth certificate then allows them to create a fiction, a legal fiction in your name. So every single one of you is aware of the fact that your exact name as it appears on your birth certificate, which you call yourself, whatever that may be, on your birth certificate and on your ID document and your passport and your driver's license and your social welfare, doesn't matter what it is, your rates and taxes bills, your electricity bills, everything is capitalized. Your name comes in all caps letters. That is the legal fiction that has been created in your name. That is not really you. The legal fiction was declared dead at sea, dead and lost at sea, and from the moment of your birth, you were given 7 years to reclaim the fact that you were alive and well and kicking. And if you did not claim within 7 years, which none of us can do because we didn't even know this fraud was happening, nobody can claim themselves to be alive and well when they're still in their infinite formative years, up to 7 years old. The banks then take over and the governments take over the use of your money that is held in an investment against your birth certificate. And not only this, when you then buy a house or buy a new car, and let's say, for instance, you only have 5 or 10% of the money available to put down as a deposit, what the bank then does is it goes and draws the money against your birth certificate name. That's right. Draws it against your own birth certificate name, your amount of money that is owing to you, then comes back to you with a 17-page or a 20-page legal document in which you have no rights whatsoever as a human living being. You are the legal fiction that has to sign for this car or this property. And then you, on top of that insult, you have to pay interest on a monthly basis in terms of the repayment deal. And then what happens is that the banks go straight to the Reserve Bank, or the Federal Reserve as it would be in America, and that original bill for the house or your business loan or your car gets paid off immediately, in full, 100%, gets paid off to the car company or to the original owner of the property, so that the banks are fair and square, done, and everything is sorted out. But you are sitting there paying the interest to the banks, and this is how they make money out of us, completely illegally and fraudulently, because none of this system has any validity whatsoever. It's all based on mercantile law, which is the corporation law of the sea, and has nothing to do with the common law understanding of the living man on land. But they're using that evidence against all of us on the land as living men and women because we simply don't know the law. And this is the problem, is that humanity has been running scared for the last few thousand years because of this evil elite that are in power. And they're using all of this black magic legal nonsense to try and trap us and use their bullies and their sheriffs to come and bully the money out of us. In no country in the world is income tax compulsory. Not one single country in the world is income tax compulsory. Income tax is a voluntary decision that you make. But they make it sound as though it's compulsory, and this is why people just comply and pay, the same way that you and I comply and pay for our traffic fines and our passports and our renewal of ID documents, and you pay for fishing licenses, and you pay to go into the conservatory or the conservation areas. All of this is a method of control only, because the governments can print as much money as they want to afford all of the infrastructure they need based on the original money in our birth certificate bonds. But we have no access to that money until you have freed yourself from the system through the emancipation process. And the emancipation process is where you fill out a whole plethora of documents to resign yourself from the High Court, to resign yourself from your income tax department and your government and its voting system and everything and anything to do with pensions and government money, because what it means is that until such time as you go through the emancipation process, you are deemed to be an incompetent, a juvenile, and incapable of thinking for yourself, and therefore you need a foster parent to look after you. And this is why the legal system and the church and the education system and everything else in the world is what it is. We have people thinking for us, whereas we are not allowed to, or we're discouraged from thinking for ourselves as much as possible. And this is because of the fact that they have created this separation in us in which God is made to look as though God is outside of ourselves. God is not outside of ourselves. God is only inside you and nowhere else. And it is this realization that is going to bring humanity to its final stage of breaking free. It is the only way to break free out of this process. Because until you go through the emancipation process and the deregistration from the political parties process, you are deemed incompetent and incapable of thinking for yourself, and therefore you need to have decisions made for you. And only when you have done that process is it deemed that you can stand up for yourself, you are independent, you are free thinking, and now you move from the one birth certificate which has your surname in capital letters attached to it, which is where you are always indebted as a slave, to the other one where it is your Christian name, where only the first letter is capitalized on your first name, middle names, whatever they might be, and it contains the number from the original birth certificate. When you have gotten that second birth certificate, then you are able to claim all of your expenses, personal and business expenses, as write-offs to this original investment held against your birth certificate. And for most people, when your birth certificate is worth $200 to $500 million, just the interest on that is more than most professional architects, professional engineers, professional lawyers, professional doctors could earn on any monthly basis. And this is the process that humanity now has to go through. It is started as a wave in the last year or two since COVID, since the lockdown, where this thing was demanded that everybody take part in this madness. And they're continuing to try and ply this to us because their agenda was to kill 90% of humanity. They don't want us on the planet anymore because we are populating the place so fast. They think that we are going to wake up and realize what has been done to us, and yes, we have. The only way out of this process is not really through the ascension process or the spiritual process, what we've been led to believe. I've been involved in meditation movements and techniques for 35 years, and I've come to the realization that most of those are very helpful only for keeping you in a state of samadhi and bliss, but they don't make you very active in terms of realizing what is actually happening practically on the planet. And so what I've come to realize is that the real needle in the haystack, the only needle in the haystack that humanity has to focus on, is this emancipation process, where you break free from this legal stranglehold that the legal system has on us, and that we're all subjects of the British Temple Crown, and that our souls and our bodies are owned by the Vatican. On top of this insult, what also transpires is that these black magicians who come from off-worlders, this is a system of black magic that they've used for thousands and thousands of years, many thousands of years older than just your Christian religion. They have, through the legal system, absconded themselves from any of the karma that they're doing to humanity. So for the hundreds of wars that we've had to endure for the last 10,000 years, for the 200 million beings that died, innocent women, children, men that died in wars between 1900 and 2000, the year 2000, 220 million people died. They don't take responsibility or the karma for any of that, because they have legally written that off against themselves. And on top of that, they have also, the fourth dimension, Draco and Anarchy crowd, have also created this reincarnation loop where we live, we're born, we live, we die as quickly as possible and come back into the reincarnation loop for one reason only. One reason only we come back into the reincarnation loop. And that is because you have not set yourself free from the emancipation process. So you can be a Tribe 144 New Age Ascension coach. You can be a spiritual guru from India that's enlightened and got a massive ashram. You are not free to go to heaven after you finish your work here. You have not emancipated yourself and freed yourself from the clutches of higher dimensional beings that have got you legally tied down to a contract which we never knew anything about. And so in order to get rid of this system, we're needing now 1 million people worldwide, and it's going like wildfire in America since Mickey Clan started her action against Maricopa County juristers or board members, in which she served them all with notice. And it is taking off in England and South Africa and Australia and a number of other countries. And I believe the black population throughout South Africa and Africa is working on this intensively. We need as many people that have got the balls to stand up now and free themselves from this tyranny, need to do it, need to go through this process of becoming emancipated, of becoming free from the political system, so that once this happens, if there are 1 million people worldwide that stand up and get back their emancipation or take their emancipation from the government and this cabal, it will mean that that money gets pulled out of circulation. It has to be pulled out of circulation from this endless fiat money printing system. And also, it gets pulled from Wall Street, which is the basis of this whole financial fiat Ponzi scheme, carrying on and carrying on and carrying on endlessly. All of this nonsense about exchange rates and bonds and shares, and it's the most corrupt insider trading. It's like this crazy, corrupt monopoly game going on with casino money, fake casino money. And the only thing that is going to free humanity is not the church, it's not Indian gurus, it's not the ascension process. As far as I'm concerned, what is going to free humanity is going to be the emancipation process, which arrives and starts from a grassroots revolution on planet Earth. So that's my Easter Sunday message from what I've got today, from what I've realized. Thank you very much for listening. If you've gotten this far, please subscribe to my channel, and more will be coming on this process because I'm only just starting the emancipation process myself. It has been a long, long, long journey getting to this point, and I am decided I'm going through with this, and so there will be updates as regularly as I can do them. So thank you very much for listening. Go well. Enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend. Cheers.